Welcome to Around the ECHL. Each week we talk with different voices from around the league. The Americans will be in Utah this weekend, so why not? Let's talk to the voice of your Utah Grizzlies. Isn't that the way the guy does it in the arena, Tyson?
Yep. He missed last season, but he's back once again this year.
There he is, and there he is. Tyson Whiting, the voice of the Utah Grizzlies, took over a few seasons ago for Adrian Denny. Well, how you doing, buddy? Getting through this crazy pandemic time.
It has been crazy. It's been interesting. There's been a few differences. I mean, obviously the road games are a little bit different, watching them from a video screen as opposed to being at the arena. But we're just trying to get through all the different unique things that 2021 has brought us. And the great thing is that we're playing hockey. Unfortunately, there are 12 teams in the league that aren't playing this year. And so I think the ones that are playing are just kind of fortunate to be out there and watching hockey.
So how do you like the new format now as opposed to divisions? It's Western Conference, Eastern Conference.
It's interesting. Really, in terms of the old Mountain Division, you just kind of replace Fort Wayne, Idaho with Fort Wayne. Everybody else in the Western Conference was a Mountain Division team. So it's really going to be interesting. It almost feels like, you pay more attention to winning percentage than you do standings points, especially, since Fort Wayne by the end of the year isn't going to play as many games as some of the other teams in the league. So you pay more attention to winning percentage. And really early on, I think we're kind of getting through the most interesting part of the year, and that's the fact that the ECHL season is starting at a different time than AHL and NHL. And so with AHL camps opening up, a lot of teams' rosters have been it's been quite that shuffle. It's always a shuffle every year, but now you got guys going to AHL camp and, having to sign a bunch of players. Plus this year, there's a lot more good hockey players available because only 14 of the 26 teams are playing this year.
Yeah, and we lost two goalies last week. Both CJ Mott and also Zach Sawchenko both went to the American Hockey League. Of course, three of our guys went to San Jose, and then today we lost Tyler Sheehy, who's going to Minnesota. So, or to Iowa, I should say. It's interesting because you don't really plan on anything to be normal this year. There's roster changes by the day. You might have 5 or 6 guys on the commissioner's list, the exempt list, and then all of a sudden you see it's what happened to us this weekend against Tulsa. They added a bunch of players, for the game on the weekend. So as a broadcaster, it's hard to plan for a normal lineup because wait 10 minutes like they used to say about the weather. If you don't like it, wait 10 minutes, it'll change. Now that's that way and putting together your line charts.
The Grizzlies have played 13 games this season. There's only one player that's played in all 13 games. And so it's been a constant change. A couple of weeks ago, the Grizzlies lost 5 guys to AHL camp. They ended up signing 6 players, including a couple goaltenders. We've already gone through 34 players, and that's 13 games in. So by the end of the season, it wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing 50 different players, maybe 55 different players that come through Utah. And really that's where coaching and having a good culture really ends up playing a big factor. And I know with Allen, Steve Martinson's been there a long time, and here in Utah, Tim Branham's in his 8th season, and so it's really easy to kind of maintain good hockey with all the roster moves. The players are going to change, but the coaches and the team leaders really have done a good job, and I imagine are going to do a good job the rest of the season in maintaining the team culture and kind of maintaining a winning attitude.
Tyson Whiting, the voice of the Utah Grizzlies, joining us here on Around the ECHL. We're about 2,100 is the max we can have here in the building in Allen. What about in West Valley City? How many fans can you get into the arena?
It's a maximum of 1,800 with the social distancing and masks required, and with a building that holds about 10,000, it spreads out pretty nicely. Although when it does get to that limit, it does fill in rather nicely. It at least gives enough fans for an atmosphere to where if there's a questionable call, you get a bunch of boos, and it sounds almost like it does during a regular game. Fans get excited for a goal, and it kind of, at least because fans are around the building and spread out, it does and maybe not nearly as loud as like you would see on a Saturday night, but it still gets that atmosphere of a hockey game like in normal years.
We don't really know what the playoffs are going to look like this year. I've heard a lot of different possible scenarios, but with 7 teams in each conference, how would you like to see this play out this year?
And my best guess is an 18 playoff with the top 4 teams in each conference, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, and then just kind of battle it out from there. The weird thing is the time of year. I mean, a couple of people have already been talking to me about how strange it would be to play hockey in June and possibly even July, and maybe even towards the end of July. It's like normally when you're going to a baseball game, you're going to a hockey game, and a big hockey game at that. So my thought is probably an 18 playoff with the top 4 teams in each conference going.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense. And I looked at what the NHL did last year with the bubble. I know we can't do what they did, where all the teams are housing in Edmonton and Toronto, but I wonder. It's going to be a challenge, no doubt. I mean, you're trying to keep people safe. If you were a good example, let's just say, one site was, hosting the Western Conference playoffs and one site was hosting the East, it would have to be somewhere where you would have multiple venues because teams have to practice, you have games going on, how many nights are you having in between playoff series? I guess if you're only doing 4 in each conference, it makes it a little bit easier, which I wondered, would you look at doing more, would possibly, 10 of the 14 make it, having more, in a very strange year, kind of like what the NHL did last year, inviting more teams to the postseason. But yeah, maybe your idea there of, the top 4 in each makes the most sense. That way, you can end the season a little bit early just by chance. You go back to, October start next year. And I don't think any of us know what's going to happen. I would imagine we probably follow suit with what the NHL does. And they're playing a shorter schedule this year too. But, how many games are going to get canceled? How many games will have to be made up at the end of the year? It's really so many questions to be answered, Tyson. Just when you think things can't get more bizarre, just wait till tomorrow, right?
That's right. There's a lot of different circumstances to the season. And so that's part of what makes it interesting, 13 games in and, we're still trying to figure out how the playoff format's going to go. I mean, I think a 10-team playoff would be interesting if you give the top team a first round bye or something, but then that first round, that team that was in first probably doesn't want to sit around for 2 weeks and have everybody else playing big playoff games. And then, they come in maybe a little bit cold with a couple weeks off and just, maybe a couple weeks practice. So really the fun thing is that it's just, there's a little bit of kind of a just wait and see what happens and kind of just go as we go. It's kind of making things up as we go along.
Well, I know our fans are excited to see somebody not named Wichita or Tulsa, or we finally played Kansas City once. I know you guys have played Rapid a bunch early on in the year. So give us a little scouting, a preview here of what we can expect this weekend against Utah.
It's a team with good speed. Matthew Boucher today was named ECHL Player of the Week. He was outstanding. His father, Philip Boucher, was an NHL player for 17 seasons. Not a very big guy at about 5'9", but he has great speed, and he's really good in the corners, winning a lot of 50-50 pucks. And he just seems to have that high hockey IQ, just a very smart player. And there are 4 players from the Newfoundland Growlers that are with the Grizzlies. And the 2 forwards really have been impressive. Trey Bradley and Riley Woods, who they picked up a week ago. Bradley's got outstanding speed. His father is Brian Bradley, a 2-time NHL All-Star. And Riley Woods stepped in. And if Boucher wasn't Player of the Week, it probably would have gone to Riley Woods, who had 1 goal and 4 assists in 3 games. And so the forwards, they seem to be very skilled and very smart hockey players. And really, you talk about a team leader, Pat Cannone. He was signed by the Grizzlies a few weeks ago. He has 497 AHL games of experience and even 3 NHL games under his belt. And he's provided a lot of leadership to the club. And so really, it's a team of smart hockey players, a lot of speed, defensively, a lot of new guys. But it seems like everybody's kind of picking it up. Hunter Skinner was signed a week ago a 19-year-old that played a little bit with Team USA in the World Juniors a few weeks ago, and he had a great weekend with 3 assists in 2 games. So really for the Grizzlies, it's a lot of new faces, but a lot of speed, a lot of skill, and kind of like Allen's probably glad to see another opponent. The Grizzlies are really glad to see somebody other than Rapid City. We've played 7 times and Tulsa 3, and so it's gonna be fun this weekend to kind of see how things shape up against a new opponent.
And I saw, or did I see Kevin Carr's name roll through the transactions again? Man, I've known Kevin for a while. Obviously, played in Tulsa. We saw him a lot. We played the Oilers, obviously, several times throughout the season. What's Kevin been doing with himself since we last saw him in the ECHL?
Well, last year he played with the Nottingham Panthers. He was over in Europe. Had a really good year there as well. And you talk about a guy that's in his 7th professional season, and every year's over a 900 save percentage. His goals against average is very consistent, somewhere between a 2.4 to a 2.7 or a 2.8. And he's excited to just be playing hockey, like a lot of players are. He was added to the roster. Evan Beitenheis, who played for Worcester the last couple of years, he was signed, and the Grizzlies lost Parker Gahagan and Peyton Jones to AHL camps. Goaltending's been pretty good. And Brad Barone, a guy who's been around all year long, but made his first start last Friday in Rapid City and got the win, stopping 27 of 29. And so Kevin Carr, very familiar with the Western Conference and the Mountain Division. He's glad to be back in his 7th professional season.
And, just to kind of toot the horn here of our league, it's always great to see when former ECHL players are doing well, playing in the NHL. And I saw Carter Verhaeghe, playing for Florida, and he had a couple goals against, I guess, his former team, the Islanders, recently. It's always great to see that player get that opportunity and do well. Just kind of, pump your fist a little bit for what we've been able to do in developing players at the AA level.
Yeah, a couple just this last week, Hunter Miska made his first NHL start, a guy who played for the Grizzlies last year in goal in 3 games. And it was interesting because, we saw him last year, and it was just it was just immediately like, this guy not only could be a good AHL goaltender, but someday could be somebody who can contribute at the NHL level. And obviously with hockey, it's a little bit different than baseball in terms of, how farm systems work and stuff. And really it really is good for development. And it seems like the coaches in this league seem to do a good job developing players for the next level, whether it's the AHL, and then hopefully for some guys could possibly end up having an NHL career of it. And I think it just speaks to how good the coaching is in this league. You see Jared Bednar coaching the Avalanche. Well, he used to coach in this league, and so and you see quite a few coaches that have come through the ECHL and have ended up being NHL coaches. And so I think the coaching has been pretty good. I think the coaching is maybe a little bit underrated in this league in terms of developing players to the next level.
So last thing for you here, obviously nobody's going out doing much of anything. So what have you been doing to keep yourself entertained during this crazy pandemic? And we were on our way to see you in Utah, which we landed there and I think on a Saturday, and turned around and came back to Allen the very next day because, of course, the season got canceled. So what have you been doing with yourself?
Well, when the weather was warm, went out and played more golf this last summer than I did in any other year. And I kind of debunked the theory that you play more golf, you end up turning into a better golfer. I kind of stayed about the same level of golf for the entire summer. And now that the weather has gotten cold and it's been snowing here in the Salt Lake Valley, it's been a lot of basically what I usually do, which is watch a lot of sports. Watch some NHL last night. I'm going to watch some NHL tonight. Watching some NBA as well. Would love to get out to a Utah Jazz game, but the ticket prices right now, they've got about maximum of $1,500 over downtown, but ticket prices are pretty insane because of supply and demand. But so I'm just watching a lot of sports and trying to figure out which college basketball teams I'm going to go with in the NCAA tournament upcoming. Gonzaga looks pretty tough, and so really for me, it's just a lot of watching sports, a lot of talking about sports, and just trying to find a way to pass the time.
Well, look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for doing this. I know Americans fans always, love facing Utah. You guys have had a really, really tough team, over the last few years. And of course, we've got one of your former players, Turner Ottenbright. I know he always loves to face Utah. So should be a fun series this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. 3-game series, Friday and Saturday at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, and then Sunday a 1 p.m. start. So it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend.
All right. Well, thank you again, Tyson, for doing this, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Tommy. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Sounds good. That is the voice of your Utah Grizzlies, Tyson Whiting.